Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2, episode 16 of my LinkedIn Live series. I have a return guest from last year. I have Carl Shawn Watkins. He's a vulnerability and diversity leadership expert. And glad to have you back on again, Carl. How have you been since last year?
Oh man, it's been good. I'm still talking about the same things: vulnerability and leadership and diversity as well. So it's been good, man. It's been good. It's no complaints. It's been a lot of up and downs, a lot of things going on, but they have all been part of me growing. So I cannot complain about that at all.
Yeah, I remember last year, the biggest takeaway from our live stream, we were talking about the daily word. And then you were talking about how
Yeah.
that sort of morphed into what you're doing today. You want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, just a quick story. I got a dictionary when I was like six, I think 5 or 6 for Christmas. I loved to read as a kid, loved to read and kind of write, that kind of thing. I did the Dr. Seuss books and all of those. And my dad just thought it would be a good idea to give me a dictionary. So me and him kind of went through the dictionary through the course of the next year. We expounded on the words. We learned how to spell them. He taught me how to use them in a sentence. Yeah, he taught me how to paragraph them, the whole nine. And we kind of went through the dictionary, and that became my fun of learning that word. So to come on and to spring on this platform in a way that I didn't know how to be an influencer, things of that nature. I said, well, let me bring something that I'm familiar with and I know. And I started Carl Shawn's Daily Word, and I would just take a word that I knew that would kind of fit the circumstances. I started it when the pandemic hit, and I just really wanted to talk about things beside pivoting, resumes, job searches. I just wanted to pivot from there. And I just took a word and talked about it. And lo and behold, it picked up. So then I started talking about vulnerability, and here we are now.
Yeah, and this is a great topic here, right? So our topic for today is vulnerability in leadership. I mean, there's all these different leadership styles, right? I know as a country, as an entire world, we're getting a little more inclusive, right? As a culture,
Yes.
as a leader, right? Taking in different views, taking in different perspectives. But vulnerability it's a new one, right? I think it's a word where it feels like it has a positive connotation, but I think some people look at it as a negative way as well. But before we get into our topic, Carl, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Carl Shawn Watkins. I am a DEI consultant with the emphasis on vulnerability and leadership. That is my niche, if you would call it that. And what I do, I just teach leaders how to embrace vulnerability and how to lead with that, so others, so they be leaders that others want to follow. It's just really all about establishing that safe culture where people feel okay with being, with getting things wrong, with growing, with being innovative and creative. And I think a lot kind of goes down those avenues. But now that, like you said, they're reopening, there should be more diverse in this right now.
Hmm. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
yeah, let's just start our topic here. Let's start from the very
All right.
top, and we'll focus more onto vulnerability. But how do you become an
Mhm.
effective leader, Carl? From your trainings, I know you train companies, you train individuals. What are some how do you become an effective leader?
It's to be an effective leader, to me, it really bases on the time we talk about so much in social media. We talk about being influencers. A leader to me is an influencer. And when I say that, you can also tell that in companies and corporations that you go into. If the leader have influenced the toxicity of a culture, that permeates throughout. So we don't necessarily really understand the power we have as leaders to transform even the very place we work. So a lot of times we stick in the rut of what's already been there, what's already been ingratiated, and we don't look to change. We don't look to be innovative about it. And we don't look to include others to get suggestions upon. Those are things that really, really have failed tremendously in workplaces. The suggestion box. What does people feel about the place they work? How do people feel about it? And I think when you're trying to be that kind of leader, your influence should be a stamp on where people come to work. You're spending, especially in the leadership realm, I could say 50-50 if you're working home versus just someone going out, just Joe Schmo or anybody like that. But when you're in the leadership realm, you're spending 60, 70, maybe 80% of your time in the workplace. And why not have a workplace where it's conducive to you, first and foremost, feeling safe, being able to express your opinions, being able to learn and grow, and also grow together to accomplish the needs of the corporate. So, in a lot of times in dealing with them and talking and training with them, I just get them to talk. I tell them from the beginning, and I open up every session with, I'm not here to make you smarter. No, I'm not here to talk about the things you're already doing. I'm not here to say that I'm smarter than you. What I'm here to see is to open up. Communication is definitely key, and I find it in every single this thing, whatever I deal with on the corporate level. There's just a lack of communication, and a misunderstanding in what's not coming communicated. So vulnerability brings you to that point where you say yourself honestly and self-awareness enough is that, oh, maybe something's not going on right here, or maybe I'm not leading right here. Let me see if I can get some input on that, and let's see if we can make this a better culture.
Yeah, I mean, you made a lot of great points there. The one thing I wanted to add on it to be an effective leader, you want people to follow you, right? They don't
Mm-hmm.
have to follow you, but they have that want to follow you. Whether it's like you said, you're open to suggestions, you're open to feedback, or you empower others to speak up. You have just that clear communication between the people above you and the people that reporting to you. Just having that clear communication, I think those are really
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Stevie, did you drop off? Yeah, and in essence of that, just the other day, I was just talking to an executive that was trying to work with me and want to see how he just asked me a simple question. Say how can he become more effective as a leader? And without hesitation, I simply told him to show vulnerability. And I
Mhm.
kind of like explained, he's like vulnerability. He's like, I can't. And this is what I've been doing over the past couple of years too, changing the narrative of thought. When we have a perspective of something and we ingratiate that into our actions, they become part of us. And we have ingratiated vulnerability with weakness. Though we may say it, I know it takes courage. We say all the cliches and the sound bites, but in all actuality, our mind has already gave us the perception. Showing someone I'm weak in the area lets them know that I'm weak at this person. And that's nothing farther than the truth. Showing someone that you're weak in that area just signifies as a human to human, I need help in this particular field. I need help in this particular area. And I'm of an essence to understand, and I'm aware enough to understand that if I ask for help in that, I might just receive it. What a concept is that, right? So I was telling them in the essence of that it's a component of being it's a component of authenticity. Just being real and being real with people. People want to be real with you as well as you want to be real with them. People don't want to deal with phony. And a lot of times we've been put in these places where leaders have been given those titles and yet they don't have the qualifications nor the characteristics to be leaders. They just usurped in there. And a lot of our leaders now, they're worker bees. So they don't know how to manifest their leadership because they just know how to get jobs done just like you do. So,
Yeah, I remember a great quote from a conference that I went to.
mhm,
Um, your title doesn't make you a leader, right? It's how
absolutely.
you lead people, how you influence people that defines if you're a leader or not, right? Yes, you can have the job title, but doesn't mean you're a great leader or you're qualified to be a leader as well. We got a shout
Absolutely.
out here from your friend Carl,
Hey,
Shannon. I don't
Shannon.
know how.
What's up, Shannon? Glad to see you here. Shannon's always following me out. Big support, great supporter. Appreciate it, Shannon.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Shannon. So next here, we talked about a little bit. Why is vulnerability important, right? You talk about no one's perfect, right? It's okay to show that weakness. How do you? Why is vulnerability so important, right? Is that a great way to sort of build that human connection with the rest of your team?
Yes, vulnerability is very important, and though we don't like to put the importance on it, that it really and frankly deserves. The most effective leaders that I've ever ran across are those who understand their role is to serve others. And a lot of times we get caught up on the terminology of the word leader, meaning, of course, you do have to lead, but in the essence of you leading, you're really serving. And when you get that across to the ones that you're leading, you'll really be surprised how effective it is to place duties or delegate to different ones that will work more than you've ever thought to get those things done for you. It's in the essence of how we represent and how we give to people. And I think this is where leaders have really gotten a bad connotation because they've gotten a connotation of, okay, you're a leader. I'll sit back and tell you what to do. My leadership style is in the essence of understanding who I am leading. A lot of times we negate that as well as an important thing. That's why vulnerability is important because that creates the connection that beside working you guys have. I'm not talking about just the nuance of you seeing pictures on my desk and you say, "Oh, I see you got two kids." Oh, I see you got a wife. Yes, that's a superficial part of the going deeper level of it, not with nosiness, but compassion and empathy. Oh, yeah, so you got to, how are they doing in school? How's their grades? Going a little bit further, making that connection. Or you got a leader that says, you know what? I know these days you've been struggling to get in these times. How about on this day that you have getting here late? Maybe you're dropping the kids off at school. Maybe the bus is in traffic. How about you just make this an 8:30 day instead of an 8 day? And then we'll see, those are the kind of things where you're really learning the people that you're leading. And thereby you building up the credibility in your leadership, and you're also empowering those that up under you. You're saying to them, okay, it's okay to do that. It's okay to be this way. It's okay for me to be genuine. It's even okay for me to tell the boss, yo, I got something going on right now. Is it okay for me? I've worked with some people that have been scared to tell people that they have family emergencies because their boss was going to chew their head off for leaving early. You don't want to be in cultures like that. And to be in those kind of cultures, you have to be an approachable leader. And being approachable makes you, the vulnerability piece of that enables that for others to draw that connection to you.
Yeah, that's the workplace I want to be in, right? You
Yeah.
have that inclusive culture, that
Mhm.
that supportive culture, right? People don't question, why you have to leave early a certain day or why you have to take time off. The micromanagement behind it as well. So that's just, I want, I appreciate. I just started a new job back in September, so that's the type of culture I'm in. I'm really, really appreciative
Awesome.
of it. So like I can tell my boss, hey, I was planning to take some time off at the end of the month. Yeah, sure, sure, go ahead. Make sure you have backups and things like that. No, like, oh, you just took time off last month or anything like that. So, that's just a great, just to build that relationship, right? So building that trust. I think that's
Yes.
the key part of the vulnerability as well. Having that trust with your manager, or having it with your the people that report to
Even
you as well.
yeah, or even your team, your direct reports. If that connection is made there, then there's a dependability and a trust factor there. And I always say, and I say in a quote that I've written on a few posts that I've made throughout my social media, vulnerability is a choice, but it's a necessary choice for the DEI part of that to work. And
Mhm.
if we look at it from the diversity, equity, and inclusion part, all of us, regardless of how we look, the ethnicity of we are, all of us have a talent and a value. That was the reason that you were hired. That was the reason that you were brought there. And if we're not including those different ones together to obtain the same goal, we're missing out on the very essence of why we are working together. So
Mhm.
leaders' main objective is to do that and bring that together. And vulnerability is so important because it's not about reciprocity. It's not about I'm showing you I'm vulnerable because I'm expecting to receive something. It's showing you that I'm vulnerable in the essence of I want to make that connection. And hopefully, me being vulnerable, I've allowed you space in any point in time that you want to do the same.
Yeah. Oh, I really like what you just said at the end there. It's not reciprocative or
Mhm.
reciprocity or whatever. Got the
Yeah,
word right. It's
reciprocity.
just like, it's, I think just by building that overall culture, right? I think that's the key
Yes.
here, right? Building that just trust, that trusting culture, that vulnerable culture where people can be open with each other about, what they're working on, what they're struggling with, what they need help in. I think just having that overall culture and not saying, oh, hey, because I was nice to you here, you got to be nice to me there, or you're expecting for something in return. Again, that's more of a toxic culture there. So I think just by building an
Awesome.
overall culture like that really makes a huge difference. And it really helps the bottom line as well, right? Makes people more productive, more happy to be working at where they're working.
Absolutely. And it's really impossible to be supportive of someone different from you, whether it's in levels as far as manager, supervisor, executive, C-suite, or whether it's ethnicity. I'm of this race, I'm of this ethnicity. It's really hard to be supportive of someone different from you if you aren't willing to be vulnerable, if you aren't willing to be necessarily to be vulnerable and to make those connections, because I can't be supportive of you if I can't somewhere in us empathize with some of the things that you may be going through. And it's not so much cultural. It's a lot to do with where we at as a job and how are we in humanity. Are we going to work together to get these problems solved and to create and to establish these different narratives that we need to work with? It's better to do that together. We're here at the same place. Why not? Let's make that happen.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So we talked about why vulnerability is so important, why it's so important to build that type of culture. How can
Mhm.
you be vulnerable as a leader? You want to share some examples, Carl?
Yes, try it. Being vulnerable as a leader, and a lot of people ask this. Of course, you would ask me, right? I'm a vulnerability expert. It starts with taking the responsibility of being self-aware, and it starts with the evaluation of who you are. Once the leader title has been bestowed upon you, there's a responsibility that you have, and it's not solely to direct the portion that you have to report to or the bottom line that you need to see done. And all necessary is for you to have that connection with those that's going to fulfill those services for you. Because when you've been put in leadership, of course, your name is on everything and you're going to get the blame. But I think it's the amazing part that we often forget in being vulnerable is I'm letting those know below me, I can't do this without you. And that's establishing that rapport with each and every one of them. I'm not saying take everybody out to dinner. I'm not saying you're going to all the time agree. But what I'm saying is leave that open space for if we have those hard conversations or those hard conversations are necessary. Me as a leader, I want to be a part of those. I want my team to have those. And in essence, when they come out and everything is off your chest and you've gotten down to what you needed to do or what you needed to say, people understand each other better. So in essence of that, have that hearing, not selective hearing, listening to others, valuing what they say, valuing what they bring to the table, their ideas, their responses. And a lot of those things that enable us to be those vulnerable leaders are just the characteristics. Really, I say it goes all the way back to the way that you were raised, the manners, your mannerisms, how you speak to people, how you interact with people, how you treat people. All of those are vulnerable pieces that as we gotten older and people have taken this so-called advantage of us in situations, we've kind of put in a cage and we don't act that way anymore. Give a chance, take a chance, start acting like that. And you'll see that you'll get way more than you will if you're stopping that. I often use this and I'll finish on this. I often use this as an analogy when I talk to leaders. I say, I give you the key to the closet and you go inside the closet and you lock yourself in the closet. Now, what that does is a couple of things. It gives you access to everything within that closet. So if everything in that closet is what you need, you have access to it. But you also are closing out some assets that may be added to that closet because you locked the door behind you. This is what vulnerability is. Now you've unlocked that, and on the outside, now you get to let other things in. So now you have a free closet where if you go on the outside, you can see there's so much more that you didn't have that you had in the closet. And that's how I look at vulnerability. Yes, will it hurt sometimes? Yes, will people use you? Yes. Will you be abused? Absolutely. I'm not advocating to say that that won't happen. But I will say you will have more to come to you than you have more taken away from you.
That's a great analogy. I really, really like that perspective, right? So just having that open closet door, you see more of the outside, more people can see the inside as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say something. I was going to add on that, as a vulnerable leader, again, you're sharing you're not perfect. You need help.
Mm-hmm.
You need support. And by being vocal and open with that with your team, they're more willing to help you. And I think just by natural, just human nature, if someone's helped me with something, I'm more likely to help them as well. So as a leader, being vulnerable, helping out your team, when you need help, they'll be more willing to help you as well, right? You have each other's back. And I think that really builds a very supportive culture.
Yes, it is. And a vulnerable leader, we really, as a vulnerable leader, and some of the traits and characteristics that we are the ones that's facilitating the bonds of trust, because everyone's going to look to the leader to establish what should be going on. So if I'm not the leader, and that's not, even if I have a leader mentality, even if I have a leader characteristics, if that's not my title, the responsibility doesn't weigh on me to set that culture. You as a leader, you have to facilitate that. I have to make sure that me as the leader, that there's trust built in the team that I'm leading. I have to, as a leader, facilitate those conversations that are necessary for us to grow together as a team and accomplish things. These are all responsibilities that a leader must take on. And whether you're innately of that and been in leadership all your life, or whether you're learning that, you have to be humble. There has to be an air of curiosity. There has to be those things in place. There's also traits to being vulnerable. I can't be a vulnerable leader if I'm like, my name's on the roll. I sign the checks. Yeah, you may do it, but you're only signing those checks based upon the ones that's putting the work out for you. And your name is only on the wall because some people have established you with the work that they've done for you. So when you're not humble enough to understand that, you fall in a very dangerous place.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. Right. So again, the title doesn't define you as a leader, right? It's what your actions and it's what your actions and what you say really define what you are as a leader. So Carl, I know as part of your training program, you have a 4-step journey of vulnerability. You want to share what the 4 steps are?
Yes, the 4 steps is step 1, intro to vulnerability. And that's just you getting aligned with your core values. And this goes on all levels, from one-on-ones to groups to corporates to teams. I do these same 4 steps for everyone that comes through the coaching and consulting firm. These 4 steps are something that I've done. They've empowered me, and it's a continuation that I spread. The first is getting an introduction to vulnerability, getting you introduced to what it is to be vulnerable, not from the aspect of you've been abused, used, and been taken advantage of, but from the aspect of what power that harnesses in you as an individual, as you as a leader, and on up the chain, and how valuable that is to you in the essence of leading other people. So once we open those up, we go along with the core values and the things that really make you you, not what mom and dad gave you as their values, not what you've learned in relationships, the values that stick with you, that define you. And once you go through that, we go to step 2, which is just extremely breaking those bad habits. All of those things that we had forgotten about in step 1 that we re-ingratiated ourselves with. Now we're going to break the bad habits of continually going down that road. And step 3, of course, when you take away bad habits, you got to replace them with good habits.
Mm.
And therefore, that's what we're going to be doing in step 3, which is moving forward, taking some of the stuff from step 1, ingratiating it and moving forward to it, building plans on it, making steps toward being greater in who you truly are. So the confidence will come into you, and you won't have an ability, or it won't be a void of you showing vulnerability. And step 4 is always like, it's the breakthrough. You just walk through steps 1 through 3, and you see all the things that you've accomplished, the things you've learned about yourself, the things that you put in order now so that you want to be in this step now. And I call it the breakthrough. You get to learn so much more about what you've done. You put in the work, you let yourself see who and what you truly are, and then that's it. You just celebrate that breakthrough. And of course, you go back to step 1 on your next level, because the simplicity of these 4 steps is that in each and every endeavor that you come across, you can apply this to that. You can apply whatever level you at. Like my grandma used to say, every level, different devil. So that's the same with you in accomplishing things and experiencing the breakthrough. When you go to the next level, there's going to be a whole new criteria, and you just start those steps 1 through 4 all over again. And that's why I say it's so successful. And that's all that I ever needed was those 4 steps, because it puts me in a place of whether I'm starting at the bottom or I've made a few rungs up the ladder and I got to go to the next level. If I redo that in every level that I'm at, I'm learning at those levels, and it's preparing me for the next.
Yeah, that's a very easy 4 step right there.
That's
And you can
it.
say it applies to any level. And I think the key is right there in step 1, right? Being
Yes.
self-aware. You have to know what kind of change you need to make. You have to know what's working, not what's not working. And then, going on to step 2, breaking the bad habits, replacing it with good habits in step 3. And, you get your breakthrough in step 4. So I think that's just the key, right? You don't know if you have a problem
Yeah.
if you don't recognize it. So you have to be able to look within, maybe even get perspectives from other people to look at, where can I improve, or what are some bad habits that I have, and what can I do to improve it?
Yes, and that's what we get to do, and that's where we are with that. We learn from that, and we go through that. And when going through those processes, the first step is very, very crucial, because you have to be real and you have to be honest with yourself in order for this to work. And I begin that at every time, at every training, at every facilitation, at every project that I talk to individuals. Let's do this honestly. And when you do it honestly and genuine, you'll reap the rewards of the work. But if you try to sidestep it, that's why I don't make it. I don't do the 6 steps to 7 figures. I don't do, the 8 steps to a great business. No, it's these 4 general steps that if you do them and you put the work in them, you will see the results of your work. And therefore, you'll learn to be a leader that's more empathetic and more grateful to the people that you're leading.
Yep. And I agree with Shannon's comment here. Speaking the truth, Carl. So a lot of great insights right there in that 4 step process, Carl.
Yes, it is. And it's what I love to do. It's what I love to do. Shannon knows I preach it, I live it. Those are the things that makes me confident in it. And it's not done by case studies, it's not done by research, it's not done by, even though those are part of some of the things that I write. I didn't formulate this on the package of, and this is no shot at Brene Brown. She does what she does and she does it well. But I didn't formulate my experiences based upon what someone said to me or what they gave to me as in interviews or case studies. What I did was formulate on what worked for me. How can I write that in the simplest form where others can even attempt it? And if they follow through with it, it will give you some victory somewhere along those 4 steps. I'm just positive of it, and I've heard from too many people who told me the truth that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into our final topic here. So we talked about being vulnerable at the individual level, being a leader, being vulnerable, helping the team. How does vulnerability, or building that culture of vulnerability, how does that help companies?
What it does is set the tables and set the culture. A lot of companies, regardless of, you're fortunate enough. I worked at Lockheed Martin for an early part of my career in the beginning. It's definitely a culture of growing innovation, creativity. You have that, but sadly to say, it's a lot of Fortune 500, 100 companies that do not have that as a culture. And it's toxicity, it's cutthroat, and those things there. So what the vulnerability does with the companies through leaders, it establishes a culture all around. I call it a culture perimeter, where the vulnerability is established throughout. So you can have C-suite leaders come down to the level of management and talk to them and ingratiate in those conversations that need to be had, instead of writing things up at the upper level, passing it down to the lower level and expect it to be done. These are the things that are consideration of what vulnerability does for companies. It ingratiates us with an opportunity of, though we didn't meet the bottom line this time, we have worked toward progressing and us coming together as a unit. It's that kind of fulfillment that people have when they leave at night. It also gives them that yearning for, say, you know what, I might stay a little bit longer because this process I want to get done. It's changing the mindset of those that actually come in and out of your doors every day. That those that work for you, that put in their sweat, blood, and tears, so to say, and say, this is a place I want to be. It also have them being your greatest cheerleaders.
Mm.
When you have that culture, I can't say that enough. When the culture is a one of love, and you can see it on LinkedIn as you see people post. People that are companies that do great things for them, they shout it to the hilltops. Wouldn't you want your company to be a part of that? And a part of that is some of the vulnerability pieces that people have known. This is what I need to do to connect with those that move me. And those that move you, leaders, and those above, are the ones that work below. And when I'm saying below, of course, I'm not talking about a statue. I'm just talking about the essence of where you are on the chart. And when you get that throughout your company, man, it builds a greatness that you're proud of. You have employees that'll walk through walls for you. And
Mm.
what leader wouldn't want that?
Absolutely, right. You got a whole population of employees who are passionate in what the company's doing. They believe in the mission. They believe what they're doing has an impact, right? And they're your biggest marketers as well, right? They spread all the positive things that the company is about. That you'll get more and more good talent walking through the door, coming
Yes.
into your company.
Yes, you will. And you'll see the difference. And you'll see the difference in the essence of them working, the essence of them taking chances to be creative instead of worrying about messing up, in the essence of them improving those bottom lines and getting you out of the red into the black. You'll start seeing that if the culture changes through the leadership, through being vulnerable.
Exactly. So, Carl, thank you so much for being a
Thank you,
guest
man.
again on my LinkedIn live series.
Oh
We
man, I
talked
love it,
about
man.
vulnerability and leadership, how to be an effective leader. We talk about vulnerability is so important just by building that overall culture where people can trust each other, have that clear
Yes.
communication. To be vulnerable as a leader, we shared that you have to be, honest with people. You have to build that trust with others. You shared your very easy four-step journey of vulnerability, and overall, it just helps. It just helps companies. It just helps teams grow, helps them be more effective. I want to give you the last couple minutes here to make your plug. Anything you have upcoming? How can you help others, or what do you need help with? I have your LinkedIn profile right here, but if you have any other links you want to share, I'll put them on the screen.
Yes, I have the vulnerability. I think I put it in there, the VTP, the transformation program. That's a program that I have. It's a 4-week intensive. And we go over those same 4 steps we just talked about. The essence of that, we do it on a Zoom where it's closed and it's confidential. The thoughts and things that you share will be any besides that. So we get down to the bottom level of that, and we go through, in the essence of that, some things that are barriers to you, some that you may not even be aware of, that has been keeping you from being a destiny or reaching that destiny that you want to be as a leader. So that's a program that we begin that every Monday, every first Monday of the month. It's a monthly program that's continuing on. So go there, sign up. You can look on the page. It tells you everything about that, what's included in that, and what goes on with that. We got that. And also you can catch our show. I do a show every Tuesday and Thursday called Real Talk Live podcast with Charlene Brown, and we talk about some of the topics and things of value that move leaders forward individually. Move people forward. We touch and base on everything. We talked a little bit about Juneteenth this week and the significance of that. So we touch on those kind of topics, and don't miss us tomorrow as well. Every Friday we have a series that we call Incredible Vulnerability Moments. Get that hashtag. It's a lot to say all together, but talk about that is it's essence of her talking through her expertise, which is websites and getting you out there. And I talk about mine, which is mindset and content, and we build those two together, and we make conversations, and we take questions, and we just share our knowledge with those. So those are some of the things that we got to continue on. Be on the lookout, because I am working on a course. I know the vulnerability toolkit, it's in the mix. I've been working on it for quite a while, but I've actually got someone that wants to take it up and wants to support it and put it out. So I'm happy about that. And I'm going to be working on that book as well, because my man Jeff Clark sent me a book that I actually said a few things, and he put me in the book, and it almost brought me to tears, because he put me in the forward of his book that he published, and he left me a note to say, "You're next, buddy." So yes, I'm going to do that.
Man, you got a lot of stuff going on. Make sure you check out his website, carlshawnwatkins.com.
Yes,
Upcoming vulnerability toolkit, upcoming book.
yes,
Excited to
yes.
see that. And you got your training program, monthly training program. You got a podcast going. You're a very busy man, Carl.
I try, man. I know I can't do it all, but if I stop, who will?
Yeah, I like that quote. So, Carl, thank you so much for your time. Shannon, thank you so much for
man.
commenting
Appreciate it.
throughout. Any final
Thank
words,
you,
Carl,
guys.
before we wrap up?
You guys have a wonderful weekend. And to all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. I know we don't get to just do like the mothers on their day, but we appreciate you as well for those fathers out there, and for some of those mothers who being fathers as well. Let me give you guys some credit as well. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend, and be safe. Please be safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you again, Carl. Everyone
Thanks a
have a
lot,
great
sir.
weekend, and I'll talk to you all next week.
All right. Appreciate you.